Hello all, this is James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade, and I'm back here regarding Article 13. For those of you that don't know what Article 13 is, it's something that mainly is going to affect the European Union. So that's pretty much all of Europe minus the United Kingdom that's broken away due to Brexit and a couple other European countries, but most all of Europe is part of the European Union, uh, from France to Germany to Sweden, Finland, Slovakia, Spain, Italy, you name it. Europe is in this European Union, and they have decided, in their infinite wisdom, to go ahead with these Articles 11 and Articles 13, that they're putting up for vote, which basically Article 11 is going to be what, quote unquote, is called the link tax, which will hold the platform. So a platform would be something like Twitter, YouTube, um, and other various platforms responsible for any content that is on their platform having a link to something else, like say a news report. So the BBC does some sort of video about Brexit, and a YouTuber wants to comment about Brexit and wants to reference the BBC news videos. So he takes an excerpt of that video, or he just takes the link and he puts it into his video. Well, that is not acceptable according to Article 11. If you're going to put that link there, then a link tax must be paid. And so then YouTube, being the platform that said video ends up getting posted on, will then owe the BBC for the use of its content on its platform, not said YouTuber who decided to put the link there. And so obviously, YouTube doesn't care about some YouTubers' content or their video, and they are certainly not going to pay for it. So you can expect that Article 11 is going to cause a huge amount of issues for platforms in regards to this matter. Content creators are. It's going to be far harder to be a content creator inside of the European Union. In fact, it's going to be nigh impossible to be a content creator inside of the European Union. But that's Article 11, and Article 11 is only the tip of the tip of the iceberg, right? The Article 11 is rather easy to deal with compared to Article 13. Article 13 is just blanket copyright protection. So just about everything and anything is considered a copyright fraud underneath Article 13. There's a few exceptions made for some educational stuff, but if you're a YouTuber, unless you are really an educational YouTuber, which isn't necessarily the majority of YouTubers, a lot of YouTubers are more news oriented or commentary oriented or opinion oriented, and while opinion pieces can be educational, they can bring to a certain light on things, they're not educational for Article 13 purposes. News articles obviously can be educational, but they're not educational for Article 13 purposes. Just about nothing is fair use in Article 13. Fair use is going to be a term that just doesn't exist in the European Union, which means that which basically means, once again, YouTube, Twitter, and other providers, other platforms are once again going to be held accountable for what their YouTube, what a random YouTube content creator does. So let's say, for instance, you're in the United States, and inside the United States, a person decides to make a video about, who knows, Oreo cookies, and they put Oreo cookies up on their video. This would not be watchable inside of the European Union. It would only be watchable outside of the European Union. Now let's say that a content creator just talks about stuff with a complete blank black screen in the background. Well, depending on what you say, you could say words like Coca-Cola, or gosh, I'm hungry, I've been thinking about going to Dave & Buster's, or hey, has anyone heard about Captain Marvel? Well, guess what? You've just used copyrighted speech, even though it's completely fair use inside of the United States, and probably still even fair use under the new crazy Article 13. It's not fair. It's not something that the YouTube filters are going to be able to distinguish. So when the filters are hearing these things, they cannot put it into the context of this isn't a violation. So even that video, that black screen video where somebody just happens to make a comment about something that could be copyright related, will get held up. It won't make it onto the air for the European Union. So basically next to nothing will actually make it through the screening processes to make it up for content creators inside of the European Union. And that's if YouTube even decides to just not blanket shut off the European Union, which there has been references that YouTube is seriously thinking about doing that, and Twitter is probably going to do that. Twitter doesn't have YouTube's capacity to filter stuff. YouTube is the only business, the only platform that has any type of robust filtering tools currently in place, and probably the only platform that can afford to expand upon their tools to even attempt to meet the draconian rules that Article 13 would require. So basically what Article 13 and Article 11 mean to any sane person is the death of the internet inside of the European Union. And I'm not being dramatic. I'm being completely serious. But there's still some time. There is a short amount of time to still make a difference. They were supposed to be voting on this, putting Article 13 and Article 11, officially passing it. The official vote, the vote that matters, was supposed to be happening at the end of the month after a huge public, well, the people who have been trying to keep Article 13 from happening have been organizing a massive protest in Europe. Well, they've decided in their infinite wisdom, let's move the vote up ahead of the massive protest. So instead of letting the protesters have their day in the sun and get their protest done, they've decided that, well, maybe it would be better off to have the vote before the couple million protesters show up and demand that we vote this down. And basically, this is evidently the ruling party inside of the European Union is trying to push this ahead because they are the group that is trying to put Article 13 and Article 11 in place. And as politics is, the vote is not actually a sure thing. When they originally thought this through as a concept, as an idea, to start even putting it into law, to going through the process of fine-tuning these articles and whatnot, what they're doing now, when they were originally tabling it for discussion, it barely made it into the tabling stage. So it was like by 70 votes that it passed. And in the European Union, that's a voting pool of somewhere like 700 and something. So 70 votes of a pool of 700 plus is only about 10%. So we're talking 60-40 or 55-45 type split. Given enough time and enough effort by people who want to stop something of this nature, it is likely that you could get 70 moderate individuals to vote the other way. And evidently this is what this Mr. Manfred Weber and his party is worried about. They're worried about the more time we give to the people who want to keep Article 13 from happening, the more likely it will be that Article 13 will get the votes needed to keep it from going into effect. And so the easiest way to get Article 13 through is to move up the vote. And that's basically what's happening. So rather than hear it from me, I'm going to go ahead and play a video by one of the most, how do I put this? The leading MEP, which is what European Union calls their parliamentary people, is MEPs. And member of the European Parliament. I think that's what MEP stands for. And so this is a member of the European Parliament, one of the most vocal, who's been organizing the efforts against Article 13, and she's bringing this breaking news. She's the one who's basically broken this news. And so let's hear it from her mouth instead of mine.
There are some urgent new developments on the copyright proposal that I feel I need to report to you about immediately. I have just heard that the president of the European People's Party group in the parliament, Mr. Manfred Weber, has requested to have the copyright vote moved ahead to next week already. There's going to be a meeting on Thursday where the presidents of the different political groups will decide on this, and obviously the presidents of the Greens EFA group will vote against it. But it's really necessary for all of us to make a lot of noise now to prevent this move from happening. I have to say I find it outrageous that the EPP group is trying to silence the voices of protesters who have announced Europe-wide protests for the 23rd of March by moving the final vote ahead to next week and really trying to push this through before anyone can do anything about it. It's one thing to have different opinions and to vote differently, but to try to limit the possibility for people to make their voices heard, I think is really an undemocratic move that needs to be stopped.
There you have it. EPP group headed by Manfred Weber is attempting to move the vote forward ahead of the organized protests on March 23rd. So basically next week could be when Article 13 ends up getting put in place, which will completely change the landscape of the internet inside of the European Union if it passes. So this is important, folks. I'm in the U.S. It won't physically affect me, but it still obviously will affect me. 1/3 of the population is in the European Union. 1/3 of the internet is inside of the European Union. 1/3 of my possible viewers of my videos are in the European Union. I will be losing 1/3 of possible viewership. That's just going to fly out the window. And this also has a lot to do with the current quote-unquote adpocalypse. If you've noticed, YouTube has added a lot of ads into YouTube, and that's because YouTube is predicting that this stuff is going to take place. And what does that mean? That means they're going to lose a big chunk of revenue, because 1/3 of their revenue stream is going to get put behind a big black box, a big wall where YouTube is going to be pretty much useless inside of the European Union, and so they need to make up that 1/3 of their revenue. And what's the easiest way to do that? It's by filling YouTube full of ads. Hence, adpocalypse is in direct correlation to Article 13 and the predicted fact that Article 13 is going to pass. Right now, it's not like Article 13 is a sure shot to be voted down. It's still predicted to be going in and taking effect. The 70 votes needed to overcome the gap to get it shut off, it hasn't happened. So if you're in the European Union, you should be contacting your representatives and letting them know how you feel about this. I'm not in the European Union, but the only thing I can do is try to spread the word about what's going on. But this is pretty serious stuff, folks. This is just as big as net neutrality inside of the United States. In fact, I'd almost say that this is bigger than net neutrality. While net neutrality is sucks for us inside of the U.S., it's mainly going to affect our wallet and our pocketbook. It's not going to necessarily shut the internet off for everybody, which is kind of what this is going to do for the European Union. So if you're in the European Union, you really need to start taking this seriously, because this is a serious situation. Contact your MEP, let them know how you feel about this, and get it stopped. I would rather have 1/3 larger viewership to watch my videos than not have that viewership there. I'd like to have that extra more creators out there too, so that I can go watch cool stuff. Because the more people that are creating, the more cool stuff that's created. It's good for everyone. YouTube is a great way to communicate and spread messages and ideas, and it's one of the easiest ways that all of these different forms of culture can assimilate into one form of culture. The internet culture is a great tool to bring people together, and we don't need to be putting checks and dampers on that communication process. Anyway, I'm James Johnson. This is my channel, and this is me reminding you about Article 13, that it's still an issue, and if you can, you need to get out there and do something about it. If you're in the European Union, if you're not in the European Union, spread the word. Let people know what's going on, because hey, uh, it's a big deal that will affect us that aren't in the European Union as well. But anyway, that's that. So have a great day, all, and peace.